with.
All right, let's throw to the next story. Here we go. So where's my trusty little teleprompter here? Let me share with you a story on free speech, folks. Ed and I were talking about free speech a little bit yesterday and why that's important. And although you might agree with this story and you might agree with the way that this particular government has behaved, you might also not agree with it as well at the same time. So here we go. So Telegram, the popular messaging app, is facing removal from the Brazilian app stores. So this is happening in Brazil after a federal court issued a temporary ban on the service. Judge Wellington Lopes da Silva has ordered Google and Apple to remove the app and directed mobile carriers to block access. The reason for the ban is Telegram's failure to provide complete user data from 2 neo-Nazi group chats. So should that be shut down? Well, if you argue for free speech, they should be able to be there. So these 2 neo-Nazi group chats are believed to have incited attacks on schools in Brazil. The app is now subjected to a fine of almost $200,000 per day until it complies with the authorities' requests. The New York Times reports that the group chats were discovered on the phone of a teenager accused of committing 2 school shootings in November, resulting in the deaths of 3 people and 13 injuries. Authorities also found murder tutorials, bomb-making instructions, that's even crazier, and violent videos in the group chats, along with Nazi content. Brazilian Justice Minister Flavio Dino stated that the anti-Semitic movement on these networks is at the base of violence against our children and our teens. And Judge Da Silva revealed that Telegram only provided the information on the administrator of the channel called Brazilian Anti-Semitic Movement, but it failed to deliver data on the group members or any other information from the other channel known as Anti-Semitic Front. So Telegram claimed the groups were deleted and that they could not recover any of the data, which the judge deemed insufficient justification for non-compliance with the court's subpoena. I think that's funny. If the data is gone, because that's the idea of Telegram, right? If the data's gone, we can't do anything about it, but the court says bad luck. That seems like ridiculous. The ruling is seen as part of Brazil's push against a rise in school violence and raises questions about government control and the potential infringement on free speech. The Brazilian Supreme Court had previously banned Telegram for failing to freeze accounts spreading disinformation ahead of last year's presidential elections. However, the ban was quickly reversed and Telegram attributed its non-compliance to lost emails. I don't know how you lose an email. As local carriers comply with the ruling, several Telegram users have reported being unable to use the messaging app, while Google and Apple have been ordered to block the app. Critics argue that this movement represents an attack on free speech and an example of complete government control over a platform that they disapprove of. And I'm on both sides of the fence there, folks. So I can't decide if it's a good thing or a bad thing. The neo-Nazi stuff and, promoting all of that negativity, that's definitely a bad thing. And what the Justice Minister is saying there is that that ideology and that stuff is at the core of the problems in our society. I tend to agree with that as well. But does that mean we should be shutting something like this down? What do you think, Ed? Do you think that that's a bit of a bridge too far and a bit of government overreach? What do you reckon?
It absolutely is. We talked about this yesterday, that freedom of speech is enshrined in our Constitution, and freedom is, it's easy to agree with speech that you agree with, right? But the most important thing for us to protect is the speech you don't believe in, that you don't
even that stuff.
Even that stuff, short of inciting violence. I mean, if they are saying, okay, giving people instructions about how to attack a school, okay, that's where the line is drawn. So, but anything short of inciting violence or showing people how to make a nuclear bomb, stuff like that, short of that, if you truly believe in freedom of speech, everything goes. Absolutely everything.
Because, so can I have a bomb-making video on Telegram? Even though I'm not telling you how to use it, can I show you how to do it?
No, that would be a bridge too far.
Well, why is that any different for me showing you how to fix the carburetor?
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, maybe I will rethink that, because as long as you're not telling people, go and use this bomb to do that. That's a good point. That's a gray area. I'm willing to hear arguments about.
I think what the legal people would say to you there would be that is if you were putting a video out there of how to create an explosive device, there's only one reason that you'd be using that, is to hurt another person.
Yeah.
And therefore that is that is a version of inciting violence. That's what they would say.
Yeah.
And look,
yeah.
I think that the neo-Nazi ideology and all that garbage that these people are promoting and the anti-Semitism that they're promoting, does that have a place in modern society? I'm
Yes.
not sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Like freedom of speech does. Look at you digging in with your American heels.
Yeah. Listen, I despise those groups just as much as the next person, any sane person. But I'll also die defending their right to express their opinion.
I have a hard time. I have a hard time with that.
Listen, if you are going to, this is why I don't believe in hate speech laws. I don't believe in hate. I mean, in England, and I'm sure in other countries, maybe in Australia too, if you say something, quote, hateful about a group or a person, you can be put in jail. Well, who is deciding what is hate speech and what isn't? And you better be careful what you wish for, because when the next guy gets in office, he might have different beliefs than you. And he might
I think it's that story highlights exactly what you're saying, right? So Telegram got in trouble previously last year with the election, and they didn't like that people were spreading misinformation, but the government was determining what misinformation was, and so they fined them and shut them down. So let me just put the shoe on the other foot for you. Put the neo-Nazi stuff aside and all the doing harm to other people stuff aside for a sec. The government in the last couple of years completely lied to us. They lied to us about COVID. They lied to us about masks, about things you stick in your arm, they're lying to us about the environment. They're lying to us about energy crisis and food crisis. They're lying consistently. Nobody can trust anything that they say. The government puts out propaganda. It's not misinformation or disinformation. It's propaganda to perpetuate a narrative every day, but they're not blocked. They're not barred. The Taliban are still allowed on Twitter, but Donald Trump's off Twitter. Like all of those, the hypocrisy is like just so unbelievably alarming. And that's the thing that kind of grinds my gears the most, where the government says that neo-Nazi group's got to get off Telegram. All right, cool. I kind of understand why you say that. Get rid of them. They're idiots. But where do we draw the line? Because the line is you don't like that the opposition party is saying something about you that may or may not be true. And you don't have all of the facts. And somebody's going out there saying that because they believe it's true and they've got the information, but you go, no, that's not true. Shut them down. And so what they're doing is they're pulling the plug out of the wall, out of the app store. And they're saying, if you want to comply, if you want to continue to do business here in Brazil, Apple and Google and ISPs and domain service providers, we're going to pull you out of the wall. And I had this conversation with my brother. I remember during COVID, we were talking about how people were being censored and they were being canceled. And the tool that the government uses, so the tool that Western governments use to sanction people is the SWIFT system. So you're no longer in the monetary system. You can't trade anymore. But funny enough, there was another story about Brazil today saying that they were going to buy all of their stuff from China in Chinese yuan from now on. No more USD there. So that's a big win for the Chinese and for the yuan, and that's a big problem for the Americans, right? So anyway, my brother and I were talking about the tools the government can use to shut you down. I was like, well, why don't you have a free speech platform like Getter, like Donald Trump, and Truth Social? He created his own one, and my brother said, because he's an IT guy, right? He's a really super technical dude. He said to me, it wouldn't matter if you had that, because at some point along that journey of you creating that, you went to the domain registrar and you registered unspokentruth.com.au or whatever domain you registered. And if the government didn't like what you were doing, they'd just go knock on the door of the domain register. Hey, see that IP address there? Yeah, that one right there. Switch it off. Yeah. But I don't think the government would even do that. The government just goes, what's his IP address? And they switch it off. Because the government's controlling the internet coming into the country. Switch that IP address off, the whole thing goes away.
Yeah, well, it's not even that hard. All they have to do is send a few FBI agents to sit with the upper management at Twitter to say, and they'll easily comply.
I was wrestling with the story of the latest release of of Twitter files today, but I just haven't had a chance to look through it all. But the headline to that is that these social media companies are all getting together, colluding with the authorities. Yeah. And what it says to me, my crazy conspiracy theory brother has been right the whole time. He's been right all along when he said that social media thing is a honeypot. It's a trap. It's a trap for you to